Regina B is back with another video. How are you? I hope you've been well. I hope you've been in good health. And I hope you've been making progress on your journey as well. And I just want to repeat something that I heard from Tommy Reeves. He's an iFit coach on the iFit app. And progress is not something that is just linear, that is just straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up. It's more of a windy road. There's some twists, there's some turns. I'm gonna take this from another iFit coach, Gideon Kaale. Sometimes you trip, sometimes you fall, sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty. You know, there's unexpected surprises that come along the way, some good surprises, some bad. But as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, and as long as you're continuing on your journey, you are making progress. Every setback is a setup for your success. And don't you forget that. It's true for me. It has been true for me on this journey, and it's definitely true for you. So I am back with another video. What is somatic therapy? I had one of my commenters, my lovely niece, say, yes, continue on the journey. So I'm going to continue on with the somatic therapy handbook. I have not picked it up in a while since I did the last video. So we're going to hop right back into where we were before. If you need to get caught up, please check out the previous videos. If not, let's hop right in. And this book is by Cher Hampton. All right. And please grab the book if you want to like follow along and do your own journey, because we're going to do this together. So we are on page 17. We haven't gotten into any of the actual work yet. This is just an introduction. So understanding the body-mind connection. The body stores information. Have you ever come across a scent or a taste that transports you back to a particular memory? It's as if your mind and body unite to recreate an experience from the past. This is all a testament to the remarkable ability of our bodies to store information. Memories are not solely confined to the recesses of our minds. They are intricately intertwined with our physical sensations, etched into the fabric of our bodies. Our senses of smell, taste, touch, sight, and sound will contribute to the rich tapestry of memories that define us. When we encounter a specific scent or taste, it triggers a cascade of neural connections in our brain, reviving associated memories and emotions. This phenomenon, known as sensory memory recall, highlights how our bodies serve as respirators of information. Think about the distinctive aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting through the air. In an instant, you may find yourself transported back to your grandmother's kitchen, engulfed in a flood of nostalgia. The smell of cookies becomes a portal, unlocking a trove of memories, conversations, and emotions stored within your body. In the same way, a particular taste can serve as a time machine, whisking you away to moments long ago. Perhaps the tang of a childhood treat or the bitterness of a certain fruit can awaken forgotten experiences, allowing you to relive them with vivid clarity. Our bodies possess an innate ability to absorb and retain information from the world around us. This is why physical sensations are so closely linked to our memories. The neural pathways connecting our senses to the brain form a complex network, capturing the nuances of our experiences and encoding them into our very being. When we experience challenging or traumatic events, our bodies also often observe and retain these experiences in various ways. The imprints of these experiences can manifest themselves in various ways, such as changes in the ways our brains function or the way we think, muscle tension, and sometimes even chronic pain. Recognizing and understanding how this interconnectedness works and how the body and mind are both affected helps us gain insight into the root causes of our physical and emotional distress. Here are some of the remarkable ways through which this knowledge can support our healing journey. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. It's not crazy, it's just beautiful. So recently I was in a therapy session with my therapist, and I was explaining to her that I was sitting in my home And I was praying and I was asking God, like, what's going on with me? Like, everything is good. The kids are doing well at school. I'm doing well at work. Me and my husband are getting along. Like, but there was this like melancholy feeling lingering around. And so I'm like lamenting to God. I'm praying to God about it. Like, what is it? Like, why does it feel, you know, in my body? It just feels like kind of melancholy. And it's been really beautiful. I mean, it's been fall, oddly fall for October, and it's been very, very windy, but it's also been very beautiful because all the fall colors, and you hear the leaves rustling, the wind rustling through the leaves, and you see all the beautiful colors falling down and coming into place. And so then later on, I was scrolling and I happened to see a TikTok that was explaining how even if there are events that we don't remember, that don't come into our mind, our body still senses that memory that's in the brain. So our senses are still remembering something that maybe is not present in our mind, right? So I'm like, okay, I watched the video and I'm like, I felt like that was God's answer. So I'm like, okay. So then I bring it up to my therapist, and she's a psychiatrist and she studied cognitive behavioral therapy and all that. And so I asked her, I told her this whole scenario that I'm telling you guys. And she said, that is absolutely correct. She said, your body remembers traumatic events, because I also told her after I saw that video, I said around this time of year, I experienced a lot of death in my youth. Like my grandmother on my dad's side died in the fall. My grandmother died in the fall, and my great-grandmother died in the fall as well. And I was close to my grandmother and my great-grandmother on my mother's side. I was so close to them. They gave me so much of just the nurture and the wisdom and the delicious food and recipes that I know. They gave me a lot of that. And so I was like, is that something? And she said, absolutely, yes. That is what you're feeling. Even though, you know, at the time you weren't making the connection, your body already had the sensations. It already remembered that traumatic event. Even though, you know, my grandmother's death, we was prepared for it on my mom's side. She was in hospice, so it wasn't unexpected. I was in the room. I didn't like fall apart or cry or anything. I was just happy that she wasn't in pain anymore. So yeah, everything that she's saying, and she gave a word to it. She said, this phenomenon is known as sensory memory recall. And so that's so interesting that just last week I was talking with my therapist about this. And then this is what I'm reading today, and it's amazing. And it just further confirms, 1, God hears you. 2, notice God noticing you. He can answer you in so many different ways, in a multitude of ways. He can answer you through a small voice of truth that comes right after your prayer. He can answer you in the Bible. He can answer you in a TV show that you're watching where maybe unexpectedly a scenario that you're dealing with comes up and gives you that confirmation, that validation. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that you have to just trust yourself and trust your instincts. And before I get into the being triggered part, I just want you to know it's okay if there's a day where you're not understanding how you feel. Just acknowledge it, honor it, try not to judge it, and then try to look for ways to improve your mood or improve your day. I don't know if that was the second thing that I was going to say, but that came out, so I must have needed to hear it, and somebody else must have needed to hear it. So that is so amazing, and there are different times of the day where I feel certain things. Sometimes right around like the 4:30 to 5:30, 6 o'clock time, I don't really feel like my best self. And I know that as a kid, that was a time that I would have anxiety, because it would be a time when my mom would be coming home, and maybe, you know, I was a problematic kid in school, so I was in trouble a lot. And so I have to be very careful of watching my tone with my children, making sure I have patience, making sure that I have composure, making sure I don't just say whatever I'm thinking. So yeah, and then there's times where the weather is a certain way. It makes me think of my great-grandmother's home. just different foods and stuff. And so she's gonna get into identifying our triggers. And so I'll go through that, but I want to remember. I want to, after I read this trigger part, I want to share with you something that my therapist suggested that I do. So it helps in the process of identifying our triggers. Your mind is your home, a cozy space that feels like a snug blanket wrapped around you on a chilly day. This is the place where you can relax and unwind without fear or anxiety. I want you to think of this home as a representation of the overall state of your well-being. If you have some unresolved trauma from the past, that trauma can be like a storm passing through your house, leaving behind some broken windows and damaged walls. Our triggers are the unexpected guests who come knocking on the door. These represent events, situations, or reminders that connect to past traumas and can unknowingly awaken the storm within us. When triggered, it's as if they accidentally bump into those broken windows and damaged walls, causing a cascade of emotions and reactions. I like that metaphor. Let's say you had a very turbulent childhood growing up. The sound of voices raising or people shouting may trigger you. When these triggers occur, it's like a guest knocking on your door and accidentally shattering one of the broken windows. Suddenly, a gust of wind rushes in, stirring up the emotions and memories associated with the accident. You might feel fear, anxiety, or even experience vivid flashbacks. Triggers can affect us in various ways. They can elicit intense emotional responses such as anger, sadness, or panic. They may also lead to physical reactions like increased heart rate, sweating, or feeling lightheaded. Sometimes they lead to dissociation or withdrawal from the present moment. And it's almost as if we're closing ourselves off in a separate room of the house in an attempt to protect ourselves from the storm. In understanding these triggers that activate our body's stress or trauma response, we can become more aware of the situations, people, or environments that may be contributing to our distress. We can repair and rebuild our physical house after a storm. We can create a safe and resilient space within ourselves, ready to face whatever unexpected guests may come knocking on our door. I'm gonna leave it right there. The next column says on page 19, at the very bottom, the next topic is they help us uncover our patterns of behavior. That is so good. I definitely agree with everything that she says. I love how she says the brain is like our house and traumatic events are like a storm that came through and just blew your house up. You know, I love that. And it's funny because my younger sister and I were having a conversation about a situation, and sometimes people share information with you or situations happen that just bring a dark cloud over your existence. And what I've been doing recently with the help of my therapist is when dark clouds try to come, you know, dark clouds are fine. It was gloomy this morning and now the sun's out. So that shows me in nature that God understands that our moods shift. We can go from darkness to light, from light to dark, and it's okay. But for me, I had to remind myself, everything is going well in my world. Do I feel for people in unfortunate situations? Yes, absolutely. And my prayer for them is that it increases their faith and it just grows their love for God, and He shows them their comfort and He shows them their way on their path. But sometimes some information, some places, some people are not good for you mentally, especially when you're on the road to recovery, which is what I'm on. I'm on the road to recovery. I'm on the journey to healing. And I also got that from my therapist. It's okay to say, I love you, but I have to keep you at a distance because I am on a road of recovery. I am regaining something that was lost. And once I regain that strength, once I gain it back, maybe we can become a little bit closer. But for right now, I'm on the road to recovery and I have to distance myself from that person, that place, or that thing. So it is very important. I love how she describes it as a house, and it's your comfy, cozy house. And then people come in and they try to destroy your house. And then when you don't heal from that childhood trauma or that childhood abuse, certain things that happen in your adult life make you feel unsafe. And for me, when she was saying that this intense emotional responses, it can elicit intense emotional responses such as anger, sadness, or panic. Mine is definitely dissociation. Like I'm very in myself. You know what I mean? I'm not present. I'm in my thoughts, you know? And so I have been working on being present. And it does help me to, I'm just gonna give y'all all the gems that my therapist gives me. She is amazing. When let's say you have, you're watching something and it's some person's mother or parent or whatever is displaying narcissistic abuse, right? And it could be like an adult and you see, and the parent is just acting like, you know, it could even be on a comedy show and she's just like coming in and being rude to the wife and, you know, bossing around the son and taking over, you know. This is an example from me. And so something that I really experienced. And so it can lead, like the brain fires off. And so I'm looking at this woman be this way, and then it makes me think of my own parent, my own mother, right? And so then after I think of that, I think of another thought, and then I think of another thought, and then I think of another thought. And so all those thoughts are true, accurate thoughts, but it's starting to make me emotional. It's starting to make me anxious. And that's not a good state for me to be in mentally, because then I'm not able to mother my children. So that makes me on edge. It makes me snappy. It may change the expression on my face to where my kids come up to me and they're like, "Mommy, what's wrong?" And I have to be like, you know? So something that I've been practicing that I've learned from my therapist is that when those thoughts try to come up, like, you know, a situation comes up and it reminds me of, you know, getting smacked in the face or getting talked down to or something like that. You look at your brain like a file, right? And you have all these different files in your brain. And so you, instead of trying to say, "Oh, I don't want to think about that," or just pushing the file back, right? Because it's just going to come right back up. You put a positive file in front of it, a truth file in front of it. So in front of that, how that process would go, right, is I'm triggered, I'm starting to think about these past traumatic situations. In front of that, I replace it with an image of my children playing. Or I replace it with an image of my daughter coming to the car from middle school, you know, all giddy. Or I replace it with a physical note that one of my children has written me, especially Ava. She loves to write us notes of, "Mommy, you're the best. I love you. You're so awesome." Replacing it with the notion, the truth of, "I am a good mother. I am a good mother to my children." And I'm telling you, it works. It works. I mean, even now, just talking about all that, I could have but it really does work. You take that negative memory and you don't try to erase it. You don't try to push it back. You just put something in front of it that is truth. And it really does help, and it really does work. And just reminding yourself, I'm safe. I keep me safe. I'm safe. Because a lot of times when you did experience childhood trauma, like most of us have on this channel that subscribe, being and feeling safe is so important. And when we don't feel safe, it can make us sad. Like she said, angry. It can make us feel panicked. It can set us so far back on our journey. And it's okay if we get set back on our journey. We just have to trudge forward, right? And so it's very, very important when you're on the healing journey, especially if you're in the beginning phases. And I know I was recently talking to another mom whose situation was definitely more disturbing than mine. Because she's a single mom, she doesn't have the opportunity to create that distance, to set that boundary, because she needs that extra help. And my heart is for you, and my prayer is for you to have the help that you need. in a positive way, especially if you're forced to deal with the abuse because you need resources to help raise your children. And that's just really unfortunate. And yeah, I didn't know I was going to go that direction either. That's really unfortunate. But try to limit as much of your time as you can. Try to find other resources. People are more willing to help than you actually realize. And that has been true for me as well. The more I have distanced myself, the more I have allowed people, the right people, to come. And they have given me so much help that I didn't think I ever deserved, but I do. So yeah, you got to be careful about those triggers. You got to give yourself some space to rebuild the house. You can't, you know, it takes time to tear a house up, and it takes time to rebuild and repair and restructure a house. And so I really love that. Going back to what she said before about, what was that? Sensory memory recall. So as I told you, during this time of year when I was younger, I experienced a lot of death. And it's right now is birthdays for some of my grandmothers. And right now, I didn't know my grandfather. Well, I know my dad's dad, my grandpa, on my dad's side is still living. But on my mom's side, I didn't know. They were all deceased. I mean, my great-grandmother died at 101 when I was younger, in my teens. So they were older women. Anyway, there's birthdays around this time, and there's death anniversaries around this time. And right after I found that out from my therapist, you know, that confirmation of, yes, what you heard in prayer is accurate. Yes, God answered you, and this is truthful, that validation. She suggested something. She said what she did when she learned this is that she figured out everybody's like birthday or their death anniversaries, and she writes them down in her calendar so that she can remind herself, today might be, oh, this is the anniversary of this, so today might be a sensitive day. You might just be sensitive for no reason, and you think it's for no reason, but the reason is because it is Meemaw's death anniversary. I didn't call my grandmother's Meemaw. It was grandmama and grandmama, and my dad's mom was mom's. So anyway, I'm making this way longer than it has to be. So she said, you know, write those dates down so that you know, so that on that day, you can just say, okay, I need to be very sensitive to myself. I need to make sure that I do some self-care. Then she said what she started to do was she found a way to honor that person on that day. So she said it could be in writing a letter, it could be in going to a special place that meant something to you too, or something like that, right? So it was my grandmother, her death anniversary. It's on my phone, and I'm filming on my phone. It was the beginning of this month, right? And so after I learned that from my therapist, I'm like, okay. And I figured out like my mom's death anniversary on my dad's side and her birthday, and I figured out my grandmother and great grandmother's birthdays and death anniversaries. And so it was my grandmother's, my mom's mom. And so after learning that, I thought, what can I do to honor her? And you see the smile on my face, even that was just like, what can I, just even to think that, and to, I don't know, it just puts a smile on my face, right? And so one of her dishes that she made that was like her dish, like when I was little, I remember her specifically making this dish and me watching her and her showing me how to make this dish. And it was smothered pork chops. And so I would watch her like season up the meat, flour the meat, put a little fry on the meat, take the meat out, drain the oil, then use some of the oil to make the gravy that you are going to smother the pork chops in. Then she will put the pork chops back in, she put the lid back in, and then the skin would be soggy, but it would be so flavorful. And it's really good with like rice, something that's kind of plain to, I don't know, but that's what I did. And my husband was excited because I think that was the first time me ever making smothered pork chops in this house. And we've been living here for 7 years. So it was a wonderful experience. And I got it done early. I had a later client, so I was like cooking at like 3 o'clock, around the time that she would have been cooking. You know, because we always ate back then, back in the 90s and 2000s, we ate early. We didn't eat late at 7, 8 was like dessert time or snack time, you know? So just even cooking at that time of day really blessed me, and I really enjoyed it, and it really did improve my mood. I mean, I was walking around with joy. I was so excited for my family to sit down and eat that meal. And I was excited when I heard like, mommy, this is good. I was excited when my husband was like, this is good. And I'm like, baby, you on your 3rd pork chop, you might want to slow down. And it was so delicious, and it was well executed. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because anything that I learned on this journey, I want to share it with my other fellow survivor thrivers, because I want us all out here not only surviving, but thriving, okay? So take that information, implement it in your life, give it a try, see how it works out for you, and I hope that it does for you what it does for me. And I hope I've said something in this video that makes you maybe feel a little less alone, that lets you know that on your journey, you're gonna have bumps, you're gonna have trips, you're gonna have falls, you're gonna have, you know, maybe some setbacks, but just keep going, because the reward of you feeling healed and whole and healthy is far greater than feeling bad that you maybe messed up or had a misstep. It's okay. It's okay. Just keep moving forward. So again, I want to thank you guys so much for your support. It means so much to me for you to be along this journey with me, for you to spend your time with me, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it, and I'm gonna keep going forward. And I know I've been moving my head a lot. I think when I watched the playback, it probably was, but that's because, y'all, my ponytail is just ponytailing. If we look back to when I first started this journey, I started in box braids, and then you kind of have been with me along my lock journey, because my first videos from a few years ago, I had box braids, and then I started my locks, and then I went back to braids for a second, and then I restarted my locks, and they were like so short up here, and I used to look in the mirror. I have a mirror right here. I used to look in the mirror and be like, oh, you look like little Gina. But it's so funny that I would say I look like little Gina as I was working to heal little Gina. So yeah, my ponytail is, and I've always loved a good ponytail. I love my trucker hats. So I like to have my ponytail, but yeah, that's why I keep shaking it, because it's heavy. And yeah, anyway, make sure you find time to get out there and get after whatever your get after is. If you are able to get after it, I love you. God loves you so much more.